So
Yes, it started.
okay,
Fantastic.
okay. So I was I listened to our podcast. I will get back to that. And the community is always so supportive, right, Eric? They're
Wait,
like,
do you actually listen? Did you
so
listen?
what I yes,
Go.
I had to at least once, but I want to circle back to that. And so the
Okay.
community was like, dude, you guys did such an amazing job. And I'm like, okay, presumably we had two goals, right? We we had the goal to introduce Dave and tell the story of how he got into Alamo City Old School. And
Yes.
I know that you know that we flubbed both of them.
It's fine, dude. It's fine. Like the thing is like nobody pays my bills for this podcast. Like I can talk about whatever the fuck I want, and that's the best
Well,
part about it. Like,
I just so really quick the Alamo City. So to close
yes,
that, like so, the, everybody would probably listen to the last podcast. They're like, oh, so he went to their event, started hanging out with these dudes, and he's cool.
yeah, right.
No, actually, like it was that event that was the online event whose name I couldn't remember, which was Casey's, who was hosting SummerSlam, right, Eric? Because I got in there and he gave me
Yes.
an invite to play that. And so I went and then he was color coding people's names in the server for by who they played with. And he was like, so who have you been playing with? I was like, I mean, even at your event, like my name badge said Lone Wolf. Like
Yeah,
I was like,
like,
I'm just a dude. Like I don't have a crew. Sorry.
and that's how we did. That's how we did expansion. Like it was just like okay. It's I feel like in line with like motorcycle games. Like we were just like oh, we're gonna expand westward.
Right,
Like
right,
that's
right.
Dave's the next person to know. We're gonna go around the twisters, just go around them and up and to the left.
You are in Frito Banditos. They have like a translation. You're in Frito Banditos territory, so you're in ACOS.
Yeah, yes.
And I was like, dude, shouldn't we ask brothers or something? So I have to like, I don't know how serious this shit is. Like, I'm just like some random dude, right? So I'm like messaging brothers. I'm like, Casey wants to put me in Alamo City Old School. I don't know. Is that cool? Is it not cool? And he's like, oh, so you want to join? And I was like, oh God, am I gonna get hazed? Like,
No,
vroom.
the next just I the next like in-person event that we're all at, we're all going to dress in Canadian tuxedos.
Oh, I'm
That's the plan.
100% down.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And then I'm gonna get a rocker that has the Albuquerque thing again. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I tried to do that for the Desert Swissers, but
we're figuring out and by we I mean I think it's just me right now, but I'm figuring out the patch situation. Um Joe who's like Discord is like Wolf and Medic or some shit.
yeah, that could be
He
cool.
got a back like an actual like motorcycle gang back patch made.
Oh,
Um
snap.
Yeah, and he got like a bottom rocker. I got to talk to him because because okay, I know you and me know about this because where we used to like where I used to live and where you currently live, but they're like actual biker gangs.
Right.
Like
I'm
Banditos like
well aware.
right. Like Banditos like legitimately ride through San Antonio like colors on. And it's like it's not a big deal. Don't fuck with them. They won't fuck with you unless you're like into like running heroin. It's not a big
Right.
deal. Just leave them alone. Uh, but on that same note, like you won't catch me wearing like full rockers,
Right.
even for old
It's
school, because I
different than
don't think they'll
downtown
get it.
Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. Like you can probably get away with it outside of the West, but and I'm sure that banditos like still run up in New Mexico. So like
Oh,
I'm not.
they're everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Like, but
Oh,
biker gangs are the equivalent of what street gangs are to urban areas in the
yeah.
West. Like that is our version of that. Yes.
So I just got to figure out like where the line is, and I know Joe knows where that line is at. Uh, So I just got to see. I think you just can't have a top rocker. I think it's okay to have a bottom one. I can't
Right.
remember, but like
There
I got
are
to ask
rules,
him.
and that's why I said that. That's what I said was like I would get a bottom rocker that says Albuquerque, which you can pull off as long as you have no other
Yeah,
affiliations. There's like there's rules to this stuff. It's just like there's certain blocks in the south of the Wild Hundreds in Chicago, which you're not supposed to be wearing certain hats and colors in
yeah,
certain ways. It's the same stuff. Okay. I did some prep work. You ready for this?
yeah. I mean, I have it up on my screen, but yeah,
I don't think
continue.
anybody. I don't think
Okay,
anybody's ready for this. This is my 4-point guide to not sucking at guest spots because I thought I sucked last time. So
you didn't, but continue.
okay, well, I did some research. So I listened to other podcasts. So the first podcast that wasn't yours that I listened to was the Pitcast Survival of the Thickets. And that's the one, yeah, that's the one where like Nathan rattles off like 400 different middle school cards in this series of 2 minutes that I have no idea what they were. And I had to like look up. So this is my rule. Know what cards do.
Dude, I have my internet pulled up just in case, because I definitely don't know.
Yeah. Gone are the days of misquoting like forgotten lore, Eric. Like I'm going to actually know, or I'm going to cheat like you and look it up.
Yeah, just try to cheat.
All right. My second rule. I've only got 4. So Monster of the Week, episode 27, Winter Derby in the deck. I originally had Dust to Dust Sucks written on it. I crossed that out. Decided to go deeper. Do some homework and know what you are talking about. Because I listened to a lot and he's like so professional. Yeah. And then 3, All Things Considered, where he had like Eli Cassius as the PT champ.
Eli Cassius, yeah. He was just on like 2 episodes ago.
I was very impressed with his ability to just keep it going and be very professional in his stuff. And so I wrote, don't say like every other word. Sorry. Okay. You're so patient. This is certainly not top 10. All right. And then I listened to our episode and it's like, just have fun because
that's the whole point.
Playing a children's cards game. So
like the last time I checked, 70 people listened to these episodes, right? We host through Anchor because it's free or whatever, and so like it gives you like stats and data and stuff. Like we have 1 female who listens to our podcast. One. Here,
probably my wife.
I'll pull up the stats real quick.
I listened to our episode and I've decided I hate my voice with the fiery passion without Sons. Like
same. I don't listen to our episodes. I listen to the first 20 seconds and the last to make sure I got everything like mashed together right. But dude, I don't do the rest of it.
All right. It was rough. I was just like, man, my voice is so bad. But yeah, so and then we were supposed to introduce me and then I couldn't hear, so which is why I'm wearing headphones or earpods today. Because like in the introduction, there's this moment where Mark is like, and I remember from the furthest north, and I just lose track of everything. And they're like, and then there was this like silence, and they're like, and I'm like, I'm David Craig. And there's this look on your face where it's like, is this the same dude who gave me an impassioned 40-minute speech about why he plays old school? You're like, and it's all summed up perfect because I've hung out with you before. You're just like, yep.
Dude,
like, yeah. I should have done a better job of introducing why I do this game.
It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to share this with you so you can see it.
All right. What are we looking at?
This is like, I feel like a fucking old man when I do this. Okay, hold on. Share this screen. I'm probably giving away like my passwords to my site.
I am not going to get into it.
Available on 3 platforms. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Look,
all right.
Dude, look how much nobody gives a fuck about this podcast.
Got it.
86 people, 33 unique listeners, $0. Okay, because we're not fucking sponsoring shit. Here's some graph. I don't care about it. Our best episode is episode 12, right? Which is your episode. Here's the graphics, right? So obviously U.S. The Netherlands. That's Mark. That's Mark right there. He just listened to an episode today. This is like Gordon Anderson or Seb. I have no idea who. I know that's Mario, right? Like I know who these people are, and then like these are bots or something like that. Most people on Apple Podcasts got it.
Bots, yeah.
Okay, males 96%.
96% male.
Not specified, which makes me assume at least one lady. And then everybody else, 0%.
Or non-binary, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then this makes sense, right? Like, this is us right here, 35 to 44.
Wheelhouse, 35 to 44. That's right.
That's it. That's the wheelhouse. So that's like the stats I get from looking at this thing. Okay, we get out of there.
All right.
I'm gonna stop sharing the screen.
Oh no,
now
you know. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave this part up.
Yeah. So I have done some homework. So that guideline, like, number 2, do some homework and know what you're talking about. I texted 3 of my friends that I used to play Magic with in the actual years of 1994 to 1995. And two of them texted back and helped me come up. One of them was like, "This is whose number is it?"
No, stop. Yeah.
Right. Please stop texting me. I told you this before. So I got together a list, kind of like I used between the internet and myself a timeline of like what life was like in the early days. So rewind back to like April or
Yes.
May of '94.
I was
And
8.
I would, yeah. So I was coming out of eighth grade in 1994.
Okay.
1994, like fall of 1994 was my freshman year of high school. And I remember we used to ride our BMX to the local comic book shop. Was called
Yep.
Metropolis Comics. And we would pick up, at that time, that was the heyday of the Rob Liefeld, the Uncanny X-Men. We would pick up our books. We'd probably pick up like a figure for our ongoing D&D campaign, and they had these starters of Revised, and we grabbed two of them and we just tried it on my friend Jeff Peppers's trampoline, and
Yep.
instantly, dude, like my rares were freaking terrible. I remember them like they were Island Sanctuary, Dark Pact, like, and then a Life Lace. And he had like some bomb, like Demonic Hordes or something. But I think he barely had 3 black sources to cast it, right, Eric? And so
Yeah.
you're playing 5 colors, shuffle this thing up, try it, and we
Yes.
just instantly were addicted. Like it was like giving your first hit of crack. We just thought it was the greatest thing.
Can we
So
talk about how revised starters, even though they were not seeded in any way, like they were just like like some fucking lands and like just some cards. Like they weren't like, oh, this is a theme deck, dude. And I would shuffle that fucker up and we would just play.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
was like, this game is good. I'm playing this game like, man.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
No. Like, so that was May of '94. Like, Revised comes out. I used the internet to figure out Revised came out in April of '94 because I kind of wanted to know like when the releases were and kind of to try and have some sort of like guidepost.
And that makes sense for this last. I can't
That's
rotate
the
this
one
because
I'm
I don't know
looking
how, but yeah, that thing.
That's okay. It's just a bunch of chicken scratches and insanity. So, so then Legends comes out in June. I don't remember seeing it. Like it was a non-issue.
Yeah,
for
I
us.
didn't see it.
I don't think if the stores had it, we didn't care because we had all come up with Dungeons and Dragons where why would you buy an expansion module when you still haven't explored the full set? I remember seeing Legends at least at one store, and we ignored it. We ignored it and bought Revised starters because it was a better bang for your buck. You got more cards, more commons. Yes. And so this was just the summer of '94 was just the most casual summer ever. You have a bunch, like, it's like something out of some sort of like Steven Spielberg movie where we're riding our BMXs all summer that summer, like just going to different stores that have Revised starters, buying them, and then coming back and like doing yard work to like get Revised starters, not knowing the rules when we first get together in group play. Like Keldon Warlord was the greatest card ever because we didn't know damage didn't work like hit points and didn't carry over turn to turn, right? So yeah, so
and that little rule book that came in there, dude. It's I've never done heroin, but I imagine that's what like heroin feels the same as like when I was a kid doing exactly the same thing you were doing. Because I was like, I'm like, dude, no, I'm gonna buy another starter. There's 40 cards in that fucking starter. Why would I buy a pack of like 15 or 8 when I can buy 40 cards? Like it never made like my little child brain was just as dumb then as it is now.
Well, heroin is not a terrible analogy because if you look at the old Revised starters, they have the exact same like seal that you unseal it with as a pack of cigarettes. Like it's the exact same thing. Like, yeah. And then you opened it up and then it had like the smell that was released. And so it was like hitting on a lot of levels for 14-year-old Dave. Anyhow, that was the summer in which we tried to start getting started in like Magic. So and we went to our first competitive tournament. There was this like flyer that was up in a comic book store that said, "Hey, come over to the Super 8 on such and such Saturday. You know, we're going to have a tournament. Sign up start at 11." This is like way before organized play or anything like that. So imagine a time, if you will, before there was ever like DCI numbers or anything like that. and the novel idea of, well, let's have a tournament and see who's
Yeah.
the best player, right? And at this time, this was before, I think if it wasn't coterminous, it was before AOL. And these guys like just basically came up with banned and restricted lists off of Usenet, like a Usenet thread that they all belong to, that they were like, well, what's the banned and restricted for your tournament? And this wasn't published ahead of time. That's my favorite part,
Yeah.
Eric. Is
And let
that
me, I'll tell people who
go
don't
ahead?
know what like Usenet is. I'll explain that in
Okay,
the intro
sorry.
or outro. We'll
Okay.
get to that. For like, I know you and me
Yeah.
understand. Like, like you said, AOL. There might be one or two people here who don't understand that you used to have to dial up to get to the internet, and it wasn't the real internet. It was like AOL fucking servers, and then you kind of like had access to the internet. Anyhow, continue. I'll explain it all later. I'll explain it either in the intro or the outro.
I mean, I think somebody was telling me Usenet's still out there for dinosaurs who are like, we're gonna take
Oh,
the
dude,
back.
now I got to find out. Okay.
Yeah.
Write
But
that down.
anyhow, so you built a deck. You had no idea what the banned and restricted was going to be. I personally built like red, black, mid-range, good
Mhm.
stuff. And it was, I told you before we got recording that it was 75 cards. Like I had 25
yeah.
lands, 33% was that at that point in time, I hadn't even gotten to the point where I knew 20, which is what the Zeitgeist was then for land breakdown between spells and creatures. And so I called up two of these guys to kind of put together what we thought this banned and restricted was. And so banned were the anti cards, Shahrazad. Restricted, and I'll just run it down for you, Eric, was Ollie from Cairo, Ancestral Recall, Berserk, Black Lotus, Brain Geyser, Dingus Egg, and we all specifically remember Dingus Egg, Force Field, Gauntlet of Might, Icy Manipulator, Moxes, and then Regrowth, Soul Ring, Time Twister, Time Vault, Time Walk.
Okay. Most of that list makes sense. Why do you think Dingus Egg is on there?
I do think that it had to do with the early days of Dingus Egg Armageddon.
Okay.
That's what I was told. I'm not sure. Okay. Again, the reason that Force Field is on this list is because this particular TO tournament organizer would take the winning deck from the previous week or previous month and ban a card from it. And so
Okay.
we ended up with some really weird banned and restricted. But the weirdest part is you show up to this tournament and you have no idea what's in. You have like everybody has like a backpack full of like cards to change.
You might have to switch it out.
Yeah. You had no idea.
Excellent.
Right. So I kind of put some notes here that I noticed about this is imagine this format. This format's insane. Talk about it, Eric. Like
I would play this. I would
really,
dude.
4 chaos or 4 copy artifact unrestricted. Like,
yeah,
it seems in hindsight, I don't know. Then 4 balance. So the Masonette Rack balance deck would have been legal here. 4 Wheel of Fortune.
I would run this as a one-off, 100% proxy legal, just to have fun with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, why not? Just a one-off, like no mulligans, like the exact rules.
Okay. I was thinking about that. I'm not sure I would use this rule set. Like this rule set is pretty broken. You can have 4 Library of Alexandrias, like maybe the next one, Eric, but I do want to point out that, oh shoot, I don't even have on my chain when Antiquities came out. Can you look up when Antiquities was released, Eric? So I don't know.
Not as an Annie event. I would run this just as like a fun-off event.
Okay. I did think it was. I do want to point out that was Mana Drain was legal. So this tournament, we don't know quite when it happened, but we know it happened either in July or August. And so this was all Swiss +1. The one thing I want to say is that people cheated us terribly.
Well, yeah, that's my understanding of how it was back in the day.
Yeah,
like because I mean, everybody who listens to this podcast know this, but the alpha cards are cut different than the beta cards.
Mm-hmm.
Antiquities came out March 4th, 1994.
Okay, so it was there. So
it was definitely there.
Okay. Yeah, at that point in time, then 4 strip was unrestricted in this, and that's kind of my point about doing all of this is that if you're truly interested, Eric, in trying to set up like what the environment was like, what we're doing now, regardless of it's EC Atlantic or or the
Mhm.
Swedish rules, that it's not quite what it was back then, right? Like, look
No,
at the restricted list and how much it shuts off. Like Berserk. I mean, how many decks play for Berserk now, right?
just mine.
Story.
No, like,
Well, Shahrazad, like story time, that's not going on right now, or that you're not going to be able to do that with this rule set. So, and
no,
yeah, no mulligan.
it's right.
There was at least 2 games in my Swiss where I drew all no lands. So it was just bitter. You had to sit there and just get worked while you have nothing to do.
Dude, I get like I would I know what you're talking about. Like there was more non-games in the beginning of Magic than there, and like people didn't understand deck theory or deck building like we understand it in current days, right? Like
No.
the brain power just wasn't there. It's just dudes playing a game for fun.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
and
you know what it's like, Eric? It was a lot like it is now in that people follow whatever the Zeke guys is. We all played 2020 decks at 2020, where it's 20 lands, 20 creatures, 20 other spells. And it wasn't terrible in that meta because guess what? Everybody else was doing the same thing, right?
exactly.
So
It was
yeah.
like it's like I'm trying to think of like a modern day like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like modern day Magic, like things that we think of are like that were the truth and now aren't the truth, but it's hard to describe. I guess like I don't know. I'm trying to think. It
What's that,
doesn't
Eric?
matter.
I lost
Oh,
vocals.
just trying to think of like what a like modern day like so, like a rule that we think is like hard and fast that probably isn't true. Like a good example is uh like outside of EC rules, playing 4 Mishra's Factory in every deck, right?
Yeah.
Like in Atlantic, like if I'm building an Atlantic deck, I'm like, okay, 1 strip mine, 4 factories, and then I go from there, right? Or like a Chaos Orb. I think that's probably not that may not be the smartest thing, right? Like that is a axiom in people's mind. Like, oh, for if you're playing outside of EC, you're playing 4 factories, and that may not always be the right idea for every deck.
Yeah. I actually think that sometimes especially when you get outside of like 2 or 3 colors, that getting those double pips might be more important. I
I
mean,
agree. I agree.
Sarah Angel blocks idea. So I was trying to remember decks that we played against, and I polled everybody, and they're like, "Jesus, I don't know, Dave. That was like 20 years ago. Stop asking me these questions." And I remember that there was green red flyers, so it was like Bird Maiden, just Scrib Sprites all the way up, and then he was playing for Earthquake in that. I beat him. Orb Beast Copy Artifact. That was a deck I played against, and I remember I got worked pretty hard on it. And then Wrath of God decks. So you there, Eric? I think I might have lost Eric, but the other one that so then moving back to the timeline, Eric, are you there? I guess we lost Eric. Yeah. Anyhow, so I want to say like starting in 4th edition. Hold on a second, man. He's gonna come on back. Starting in like 4th edition in '95, we had something like no, it would have been before that. It would have been in October or November, somewhere in that time, that fall series. We had another tournament, and that was about the time that we started like that. I'm gonna just talk to myself. Well, and that's fine. But we had some sort of tournament where we had started stepping up our game a little bit because the seniors from my high school started hanging out with us, and we did something where we started started playing league play with them. We would get some revised starters or something, and we would start playing on the weekends. And that's why you see like sometimes you guys will see like revised or other cards that have like cards initials written on them from back in the day, and that's from league play. They started taking us to like a local game store to hang out, and it was just still open play. And that's when we started like having, all sorts of fun with like different ages. I feel like this fall period was when I started like going over to like, pool halls, random places like, you know, people's grandparents. You know, there was all sorts. It was just basically when the 90s started picking up. And I've talked to people that played during this time, and I would agree with it that this was like the summer of just, you know, and looking for games anywhere and everywhere you could find them. I was playing on like youth group, church floor, basements. I was playing at 20 something college kids' dorm rooms. There was like, you know, everything there. You know, pool halls. We played in the back of kitchens and stuff. You know, it's an interesting time for Magic. And in that time, we tried to come up with what our best memories serve us as the banned and restricted, which was banned were the anti-cards, Divine Intervention, Sherazade. We can't remember if Time Vault was banned or restricted, and it might have been one or the other at two of the tournaments that we went to during this time. Again, this is best group memory. It was Springfield, Illinois at Kano Lodge. Restricted would have been Ali from Cairo, Ancestral Recall, Balance, Ball Lightning, Berserk, Black Lotus, Brain Geyser, Channel, Chaos Orb, Copy Artifact, Demonic Tutor, Felden's Cane, Library of Alexandria, The Moxes, Mind Twist Mirror Universe, Workshop, Recall, Regrowth, Soul Ring, Time Twister, Time Walk, Underworld Dreams, and Wheel of Fortune. Again, you have no idea that this is the banned and restricted list until you get there. And they just handed you like a slip of paper, if you were lucky, and it wasn't just posted on the wall, that says, this is what the banned and restricted list is going to be. This is when we started getting the all land, no land mall that Eric was talking about earlier. Then that made life easier. Around this time, so fall in 94, we didn't have access to Chronicles, but in later, after Ice Age, we got Chronicles release, and we got better. So the first tournament, we were terrible. The second tournament, we were a little bit better. Again, you know, you've got all sorts of things like, again, Mana Drain is 4 of, like it was in the previous one. Strip Mine is 4 of. Fallen Empires was legal when it was released. I played at least at one tournament where we had Fallen Empires in the fall of 94, and then by summer of 95, or where we didn't have it, and then by summer of 95 we did. Recall was restricted. Again, there was less cheating. It's still Swiss +1. But the restricted list shuts down a lot of what the current old school meta is, I think. Like, it shut down what Underworld Dreams combo is not allowed to be played here with this one. Shops, so all of the shops decks that are at the top of, like, yeah, that's a restricted card. You know, the Berserk decks, again, they're not going to be able to rock this. So again, like, you've got, and then Time Vault, if Time Vault's banned, then you can't do the Time Vault combo. So when I see like the current old school, and I wish Eric was on, because this is when I get on my old man preaching standpoint, like, you know, there is no current version of old school that represents what we had. I mean, we didn't have Charizard, we didn't have Time Vault, we only had one Workshop, we only had one Recall, there was Mana Burn, Fallen Empires were legal because it was a legal Magic set, and Strip Mines were at 4, and again, Mana Drain was at 4. So that one was probably my favorite rule set of old school, even though it's like a list of like 30 cards. It was, and again, it's interesting that Ball Lightning was restricted. I feel like we had a better level playing field with there against like the blue-white decks, of which there were many. When I think about this time, I think about the fact that Circle of Protections were much more widely played. Nobody would be playing green without Tranquility or Disenchant. And then Never Norile's Disc was the answer to how you handled all of that. But the blue-white deck with Circle of Protections was much more likely to be a card that you had to deal with. Whereas now, you know, people don't really want to be the guy playing circle protections, which I can understand. But it was a real thing. So yeah, I of the banned and restricted sets that Eric was saying, like, I would play that. I would say that this is the one that I would probably think about revisiting for a one-off. It's basically Singleton. I mean, Ball Lightning was on there because somebody was playing a mono red deck and got Ball Lightning banned. Like I talked about, the TOs taking a card from a winning deck and banning it. But you know, I think that you could probably take this and it would make for a more fun environment. Then we did this. So we did this at the Econo Lodge in rural Springfield, Illinois. And then in summer of 95, I think we also did another one at the Econo Lodge. And that's kind of around when Chronicles was released, was summer of 95. And that's when we started getting really competitive. That's when we were like, I was playing the green, black, red Ponza deck with like 4 strip mines, 4 ice storms, 4 sinkholes, 4 stone rains, and then just big stuff at the end of the curve. I had started with Dingus Egg in that list and moved to Anka Mishra and Black Vice. I mean, you were leveraging Black Vice and Burn, and then you would have some beaters in the air. Generally, like I was playing Dragon Whelp and Shivan Dragon because of access, and Sentry Vampire. But you know, plenty of guys in that list who had it optimized probably were playing Jusum. That was a deck. That's when we started collecting full sets of Chronicles, and you used to be able to trade Chronicle sets in for actual power, and we would do that, and that's how we got access. I started playing White Weenie at that point in time because in both that deck and the mono black deck that was empowered after Fallen Empires, the Moxes really kind of swing the game. Having, you know, white on turn 1 is really important for White Weenie. And I remember that I played a green black land destruction deck that was just poorly optimized. It was like a, you know, try and land a first turn hippie and then use him to Turok mostly for the ability to be able to hit lands in hand. And it was, you know, it was fun. It was fun. I did very well in the fall of 94, not as well when we tried to start playing for real. So, yeah. In there, you know, that's kind of like when we started getting into actually realizing which cards were decent or not. Homelands came out in October 95, pretty much a non-issue then. And then Alliances like comes out in 96, and that's the final hurrah in which like all of the upperclassmen leave and we don't pass the game down, what I call the beginning of the end. We started fizzling out, getting into, you know, things that upper class or high school get into, like girls and, you know, other stuff. So I came back to the game. So I said in the last podcast that, you know, Eric's going to join us. That's perfect timing.
Oh my God. I'm hoping this is still recording.
Okay. I don't know if it did or not, but I just kept pushing. I was like, you know,
dude, it's still recording.
Leveraging all of my work, like anxiety works. I was like, okay, if everybody drops off the Zoom call, you just keep pushing.
I can't believe this is still recording. Thank Christ. Okay, continue.
Oh God. So what I did was go through the other banned and restricted, the fall of 94 and the summer of 95 list. And let's talk about that because I'd like to hear your thoughts on that list. That's okay, the one that has
summer
like
94.
Yeah, fall 94, summer of 95.
Hold on, I want to talk summer 94, the first one we were talking about.
Okay. So rewind.
What were the prizes? What were the prizes for the top 3?
Oh, an Underground Sea, a Beta Soul Ring, and he always did third prize weird. It was a Jihad. It was a Jihad.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Feels better.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I just wanted to know.
But that's straight from David's head. I did not confirm that with the other 2 individuals that helped me put this together. So if they're listening and I'm wrong, Apologies
They
in
can-
advance.
Yeah, they
It was
can
25 years
shit on me later. It'll be okay.
Right. But you
Okay.
mentions.
Fall 94, summer 95.
Right. So I just
Okay.
ran down like what that was
Yes.
like. I was doing very well in this band and restricted with the green, black, red deck that I talked to you about before, with
Yep.
4 ice storms, 4 sinkholes, 4 strip mines, and 4 stone rains. And you're thinking, God, that's a lot of freaking land destruction. And it was at the time too. Like people would come up and be like, God, that's a lot of land destruction. You there, man? So anyhow, I guess Eric's gonna pop in and out. Um, so that's what I played, and I did pretty well. Prizes for that tournament, because they again went down to top 3. I have no idea what 1 or 2 were, but I won 3rd and got an unlimited Blaze of Glory. So that was what it was. I came back to the game in college for a little bit around Legions from 2002 to 2003. So when I said that I've been playing since the origins, that's not even true. Like I bought Magic cards in between 1996 and 2002, but I didn't really play, which is why I like middle school and pre-modern sides. Eric, are you there? Because it's a completely undiscovered card pool for me. So then I've got on my timeline after 2003 is more degeneracy, poor choices, and better parties. Then I come back to the game in October of 04. Oh, wait, I better rewind. We're going to want to talk about
I'm
this.
back again.
Yeah.
I'm
All right,
literally
all
right
right.
off my phone right now. Fuck this fucking internet. Okay.
I can see you like it up there in the
Love it. I
Pacific
love
North.
the Pacific Northwest. Fantastic internet. Definitely not an internet problem. In the year of our Lord 2022. Okay.
All right. So
What
yes,
were the prizes for this fall of 94, summer 95? Second question, Fallen Empires. What did people think about that? Chronicles.
Yeah, that's good questions, and it sets up some good discussion. I have no idea what the freaking prizes were in fall of 94 other than 3rd place because I got it. Like
Okay, what did you get?
I got an unlimited Blaze of Glory.
Yes. Fantastic.
It was out of print, Eric. So these are the kind of should give you an idea. Yeah. And what did people think of Chronicles? There were proto neckbeards that were not happy about Chronicles. And the fact
people really collecting back then, or were they playing? Because to me, I was either 8 or 9. I was 8.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this game was collectible. I was just playing this shit. I had seen beta cards behind the desk, but I never thought it was a collectible game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. 14 years old is closer to 9 than it is to 24. Okay. So I want to be honest in that debate about Chronicles and its impact to the game was a little further up the generational ladder than us. I mean, because we were fairly disenfranchised. So to us, access to these cards that were heretofore only available through, mowing your grandmother's lawn for the 3rd time in a week is magic. It's literally, Toys R Us has these things discounted. You scoop them up. And what I talked about before you were on the air is we would just put binders to complete sets of Chronicles together because you could swap that in for power. I got a Mox Jet and a Mox Pearl by just taking a binder and handing it to a dude and him handing me the unlimited Mox Pearl. So that was how we got enfranchised sort of into the game.
I remember seeing those cards behind the glass counter, right? In dual lands, right? And they were out they weren't expensive, but they were outside the Eric Martin price range. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I just and now I'm just like fucking kicking myself for not even thinking about those cards. But like 9-year-old Eric wanted a Shivan Dragon more than he wanted a Mox Pearl for certain.
Well,
But yeah,
dude,
I was just curious.
Like, yes, I would have much rather have had a Shivan Dragon at the beginning of my, play, but only through getting like seniors to tell me
Yeah.
that's a crap like way to go about things. A Mox Pearl would give you much stuff, and it's like it's just a plains. I don't get it, and it's like yeah, but you get two, and then you have a black or a white knight. It's like yeah, okay, that is pretty good. And so
like, yeah, the game.
well, I mean, it's again, people underestimate like no internet, like no like ability.
AOL internet. There were chat rooms. ASL.
Yes, that's
Which
again
today it's
probably
illegal.
dating
You can't
ourselves
ask
there.
that question, okay?
But there was nowhere to like go to like get strategy, and everybody was kind of hiding their tech, right? Like I didn't even let my friends know what I was going to play at the tournament until like day of, so it was like a little more cutthroat on that sphere too. There was no spice, like it was just all spike. Again, Mana Drain was a 4 of, and Strip Mine was a 4 of. So that'll be a recurring theme.
I think Mana Drain as a 4 was probably okay.
It was never, so spoiler alert, it was never not 4 of during this time. Okay. I think that the reason it's restricted in current pools has more to do with like originators of rule sets having some familiarity with vintage in the last 10 years than it has to do with creating a historical environment. But the blue-white control decks Eric played for Mana Drains routinely and would sink and then would untap and then sink all of their stuff into, so you had to bolt them when they activated their circle and they could still activate it again, which is something I said when you dropped off too, is that Circle of Protections were widely played, like were a very prominent part of like early Magic in white decks and control decks too. So people would main deck those, Eric.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I think in a this is gonna sound dumb, and it is dumb, but like in a like DFB Summer Derby, Winter Derby, you could probably main deck a cop red and be okay.
Yeah.
And it would see play. It would see some service. I think that's true about Pyroblast. I think you can main deck, or it's not Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast. I think you can main deck those instead of Chain Lightnings in a Derby environment, and that'll actually serve you better.
I actually think I'm right there with you. I honestly think like a fourth. Instead of a 4th Chain Lightning, going to 3 and a 1 Red Elemental Blast might be the right thing for our Earn and Burn 'em decks. Just to have it so that they can't draw off that Ancestral. I don't know.
I think the percentage you are to draw it isn't worth it. I agree. Like I'm gonna go
really even with the dibs.
Yes, the complete side. I'm gonna go the next big event here in Seattle is going to be a Swedish event. I'm like, I already know what my main deck is. I've already tested it. I already know what that answer is. The sideboard's probably four red blasts, right? 4 red elemental blasts. Either 4 juggernauts, 4 whirling dervish, right? That's 12. Use whatever other 3 you want in there, right? Because you're gonna get City in a Bottle. Right, that's going to happen because people are going to play City
in that environment. Yeah, in Sweden.
So like I'm going to keep my Curd Apes and I'm going to keep my Ernies for the first game, right, and just suck down a City in the Bottle. I'll probably play some type of artifact hate main, probably like a 2 or a 3 of Shatter, and then the other 3 slots is probably Shatter Storms for workshop decks.
So in Swedish, do they have workshops unrestricted
I think
too?
shops is a thing too, right? I don't know. I just, dude, like shops was such a big deal this last turn. Not that I was like at the top of the tables, but like I played enough artifact decks to think that maybe Shatters in the side isn't the right. Like it's probably 3 Shatters and a Shatter Storm or 2-2 or some combination, but Shatterstorm has a say in the sideboard of Earn and Burnham. It has to have
absolutely. I mean that. Let's talk about sideboards for these tournaments. So sideboarding back in that day was just like all of the color hosers, Eric. Like it was just you would play 3 flash fires, 2 tsunami, 4 red elemental blast to beat the counterspell. And and then Whirling Dervish if you had him. We loved Whirling Dervish. We thought he's the
probably just hard to get a hold of. Yeah,
but it was hard to get a hold of. You wanted to have Feldon's Cane because either main or in the sideboard, and it was restricted a lot of the times in these rule sets where it was for getting decked because Millstone was a very popular strategy even then. So.
I saw it. I saw it on the list, and I was like, "Oh, obviously people were playing Millstone and decking people. That's what it was."
Absolutely,
I kind of figured that one. Yeah,
the blue-white Millstone deck was probably a little overplayed comparative. Like if you compare the two metas, like much more in the early days. But also I was saying this to myself, but I want to say it to you. Like, look how much of the current meta of old school is shut down by this fall of 94, summer of 95, like banned and restricted list. You have Time Vault banned. We think it was banned in the fall of 94 or restricted and restricted in summer of 95 or vice versa. We're not sure. So there goes Taking Turns. Shahrazad, Story Time, that's gone. You've got all of Mishra's Workshop is restricted here. Underworld Dreams was restricted for most of the time it was legal in this period. So Dreams combo's gone. This is a form like a lot of this. So the top tables where you have like workshops and all of that, like that's not what we saw. The end boss was the guy playing 4 mana drains in Wrath of God. It was always that way.
Blue, just like a classic blue-white control deck, like land and go, right? Okay.
Yep. With a Mirror Universe, which is why Mirror Universe was restricted too. So,
I get it.
Yes. So that was the end boss. That was the guy you were trying to beat. And how I beat him was by killing all of his white sources with land destruction, and then
were the rounds timed?
No,
just when everybody finished up, then you just hit the next round.
Yes.
Solid. So it favored him. It favored going long.
Yes. But there was what we call there was the presence of the tournament organizer.
Oh, and don't be a dick rule. Yeah.
Like nobody was trying to go to time in this. We were trying to get this stuff done fun because we were very excited. And there was also this thing back then, Eric, where you didn't want to play slow because it made opponents think that you were slow in the head. So like there was this thing where you just kind of wanted to prove to everybody that your knowledge of the game was superior than theirs. So you would do that by playing fast. Like that was a thing. I don't know why. In hindsight, it seems kind of childish, but
right. It's like the antithesis of what is today, right? Like a lot of the best players play, in my opinion, incredibly slow. Now my choices are very simple, like play a creature or not, like, but yeah.
I mean, to be fair, 14-year-old Dave was like, which land should I blow up?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I got one choice here, like.
But you wanted to do it fast. You wanted to go like, okay, so, and then that was like, I remember that being a thing. So even the control players would like play fast because really, why do you need to play slow when you're going to automatically 3-for-1 somebody with your Wrath of God because it's always live and it's always good. Like, and nobody knows. Everybody's just like, oh, Wrath of God wrecks me again. But they step right on up.
What could I have done?
Yeah. Right. So that's the fall of 94, summer of 95. I'll back up because I was like way into 2002.
You're good. It's all still recording. It records to the cloud, apparently.
Well, this is sort of how my memory and brain works anyhow, where we go to 94 and backwards to 95 and then up to 2002 anyhow. So I did want to say something to you, Eric, that I said to everybody else, which is like the fall of 94 and most of like the spring of 95 was just this really cool time where like
Okay.
everybody was playing Magic. Like you would see it in parks where you would walk by. You could
Like more
and
than
like,
just neckbeards were playing it. Like people were
right,
playing it. Okay.
right. Like it had spread from the nerd table in the cafeteria to the jock table
Yes.
to the youth group, and it was and like kids in college dorms were playing it. Like I've talked to people in the community, they were like, I went to a crack house to play Magic in the fall of
Yeah.
'94. It's like I believe that. I believe that. Like because and certainly I you know I well I do think that there was a lot going on where it was just everywhere. The game's popularity has probably never reached that peak ever since, as far as a percentage of the Muggle world that
Hmm.
understands and knows it. Like I've never seen anything like that. So,
Okay.
all right, all right. So then the last rule set was the summer and fall of '95, and this is when Ice Age starts becoming legal. So banned
Ooh,
again were the
okay.
anti cards, Divine Intervention, Shahrazad Time Vault. Like that was just pro forma, sort of like it is now, but
Okay.
Shahrazad was on there. So all those shirts that you see with free Shahrazad, like, dude, no, no, that was never played. Um, and then restricted was Ollie from Cairo, Ancestral Recall, Berserk, Black Lotus, Brain Geyser, Candelabra of Tanos, we think, Channel, Chaos Orb, Copy Artifact, Demonic Tutor, Felden's Cane, Ivory Tower, Library of Alexandria, Maze of Ith was restricted, Mind Twist, Mirror Universe, Mishra's Workshop, the Moxes, Recall, Regrowth, Soul Ring, we can't remember if Sword of Ages was restricted. It was restricted in some tournament, but we can't remember if that was the local game store or not, Eric. Time Twister, Time Walk, Underworld Dreams, and Wheel of Fortune. Um, so yeah, and then one of the guys was like, Force of Nature was restricted, and I was like, there's no way. That's
Dubious. Dubious.
yeah,
I like.
yeah. My notes say dubious. I don't
There's
believe that.
there's there's probably something better could be doing with 8 mana. I'm just like the game had been figured out a little bit beyond that, right? Like
Oh, also, I swear to God that Fork was restricted. And both of the dudes were like, no, absolutely not. No, because I played a guy with two forks. And I was like, all right,
well,
man.
maybe he was just cheating it. Like it's like
And then let's be
who
honest. There
knows?
was
It's
no
95.
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. So I played Black Green Land Destruction with four sinkholes, four ice storms. I dropped the red at this point in time to try and get leverage on another axis with hand destruction because I
okay.
was going to beat you one of those two ways. Um,
Because you
and I
had
was
Fallen Empire, so you had him to Turok.
him.
Okay.
And him was recognized for the beast it was as early as the
As
first
that early. It's called the
Empire
2-for-1. Yes. Like,
at random, and you're just like, yes. And so we played it in land destruction because we were like, well, I can get a land out of his hand.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's you're like, oh, just think about just the lands. Right. Like
So at no time was anybody, and Fallen Empires was taken seriously by people. Like people were trying to make it a thing. Um, Nobody was successful. Him to Truck was the only card that really saw play.
did anybody play
Um,
Goblin Grenade and like play
yes,
goblins? Because you have all the pieces at this point.
they try, but the problem with that is again, Circle of Protection of Red is everywhere, and
Oh, man
so
decking it,
yes,
yeah.
yes, people are playing with it, but they're not having the success that they have like possibly in the current meta where people don't want to be that guy, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so again, this was probably the most fun. This was a tournament that um series that was being played at like the local convention center in Springfield, Illinois, where I grew up.
Just some like random
So
dude through this tournament, like some random tour, like comic book
no,
store was like, we're doing this.
no, at this point in time, it's moved from like a group of like two or three or one random comic book store
Hmm.
player or owner to like a kind of production. Because at this point in time, Fraser and Schuler were there signing. Like I have my demonic
That's the
tutor
second
that
question I have for you is like, when did artists coming to these things become a thing to like sign cards? Like, I assume that wasn't true from the very beginning,
it
but
was
I
not, it
love it.
was
I love
not,
getting cards signed.
but it predates the founding of organized play. I'll tell you
Huh.
that.
Okay.
because
Okay.
Dan Frazier and Doug Schuler were at that convention center signing. I picked up a German Renaissance or a German revised pack, and I remember that I got like a Glasses of Urza signed
Yes.
by
Yes.
Douglas Schuler. That I waited in line to get a German Glasses of Urza signed. I
Wants
was
that card. He
15.
wants that card whenever you're done with it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I bought 2 packs. I'm sorry. I should reference the notes. I'm sorry.
Your own notes.
Guidepost.
Your own notes.
You
Yeah.
know, number 2. Yeah. Mono black is a huge thing. It's a huge thing from the start. It's a huge thing from the start. It's not built the same way that it is now. It's more mid-rangey. There's a Fallen Empires card called Neckrite or Nectrite or something that's played in that to sacrifice to kill hand. They are leveraging the rack, very much so. Mana Drain was still a 4 of. Strip Mine was still a 4 of. So, yeah. Strip Mine's a 4 of. Fallen Empires, yes. Mana Burn, yes. Recalls at a 1 of. Workshop is a 1 of. Time Vault and Shahrazad are no. And then we had the all land, no land mulligan for these last 2 rule sets. So yeah,
it's how I think mulliganing should be for play. If we want, like, I understand that current mulligan rules are actually better for like games, right? Like I understand that they are better, like for how you actually play Magic the Gathering. But if we wanted to keep it real, we would do the all land, no land reveal your hand, all land, no land mulligans.
Yeah.
And do it that way.
One of the rule sets doesn't use Mana Burn. Is that Swedish?
Swedish doesn't use Mana Burn. That's why they play. I don't know. I'd have to ask like Gordon or Sever, one of those guys, why they do it that way.
Yeah,
but that's why they play the flyer. What is it called? I need to buy a couple Suchis. They play Suchis over Juggernauts because there's no downside. It's just a 4/4 flying 4/4, like for not like no downside.
Okay, sorry, you don't take the 4 when they disenchant it.
Nope, it's just a free.
Whereas we're like Juggernauts business.
That's it. That's the business, right? Like, not going to take any damage on that shatter. Like, so that's why.
Again, that's a little more in line with what I remember from back in the day, Eric. People played Juggernaut over Su-Chi back in the day. I mean, the thought being that even if they lightning bolt that, you'd rather have them lightning bolt that than another threat. So again, yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
I agree. Yeah, no, you're good. Okay, let me ask. Here's my questions about this tournament.
Absolutely.
Did people complain about the banned and restricted list? Were people like pissed that Mana Drain wasn't banned or restricted? Same with Strip Mine. Like, were people like, oh, fucking 4 strip, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, were like people complaining about that shit? Like we talk ad nauseum about ban lists.
No, absolutely not, dude. Like, it was considered to be like a thing where wherever you went, you knew that there was going to be a different banned and restricted list. And so you would have to change your deck out you would have to be flexible and like
just
understand.
Regional, like every tournament could have a different BNR, and you're just like, this is what we're going to fucking do.
Right. And it's like, can I still get what I wanted to get done with this? If not, then what do I do? Like, do I have I would build, so I build like 2 or 3 like decks, like, and just kind of have them in a box ready to go in case, one was better at a different axis than another. And you wouldn't know, like they would just give you like
just hand you a sheet, like, this is it, figure it out.
By fall of 95, it was a sheet. In the early days, like it was pinned to the wall.
Even worse. Yes.
Yeah. And so you had to like go back. You're like, I don't know, is that restricted? And like you'd have to like you'd like watch my stuff, and run over.
Yes, there's no camera to take a picture of it, and you had to go like get photos developed at a photo store. Anyhow,
yeah. So the size of it grew too, though, man. Like that's what everybody will tell you from the early days. Like the first tournament I went to at the Super 8 had like 14 players. By the time we were at the Prairie Capital Convention Center, I think that was like an 80 to 110 person tournament. Like it was
where were you living in 95? Because this is in Illinois. Did you travel for this?
No, it was in Springfield, Illinois. So that speaks to the popularity of the game too. that just in a random town of like 100,000 people, that they had a 100-person tournament for Magic the Gathering. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't Chicago. This wasn't even St. Louis, which is a big city by comparison. This was a small podunk town in the middle of a cornfield. The capital is Springfield, but I mean, it's bigger than other farm towns in
Right,
Central
right.
Illinois. But
You could see corn from the convention center. You're like, oh, there's a corn. Like, oh, there's a
oh,
cornfield. Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay,
Particularly
all
at the top of the Hilton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely see cornfields, bro. So yeah, like I do think that this is the one where my friend was on mono black and he did really well. He placed third, got a Mox
Nice.
Emerald
Whew.
as his prize. Later traded it to me. We were having a separate thread, like, what happened to all those cards, man? And they were like, I think we just sold it for beer when we got older. And I was like, yeah, I think so too. But again, 4 strips, all legal all this time. So the environment that we have with EC is much, much closer to the nostalgia for me than it is to sit around and play Sarah Angel that deck all day. Like, it's not.
Yeah. Like,
It's just not what I grew up.
I know, and like me and you have had this conversation every time we talk about this stuff. Like, because there's usually a third person in the room who doesn't like agree with us, and I'm like, no, stop.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. Just like sit
Yeah.
down as I get onto my soapbox.
Right.
Yeah, like, and don't get me wrong. If I'm going to a friend's house and they want to play Swedish, I'll play Swedish or Atlantic or whatever. But I think 4-strip EC rules or pack rules it's every man's format because it allows you to play monocolor decks, which are cheaper than, 24 dual land dot deck, right? So mono black and mono red easily played in 4-strip environments, right? Because those strip mines help you keep like compete with all those other decks, right? 100%. That's it.
I believe you cannot. I feel like the best deck is always going to be a Wrath of God deck in an environment with less than 4 strips. It just is. It's very difficult to beat that deck. It has better matchups against the field. If you don't have the ability to use your lands to keep them off of a color, either double blue or double white, in order to do stuff. Things that were more. I had a separate topic. Things that were more played back in the day versus now.
Yes.
Everybody wanted those Legends mana batteries to be good, Eric, and they played them hoping that they would be.
Fuck, I think they're bad, and I'm bad at this game.
I played them because there was this one swingy turn where you could just fireball or drain life the heck out of somebody, right?
Okay, all right. Did anybody play like the Fallen Empires, like
yes,
Tap Sack 2? Same reasons? Okay.
For the exact same reasons. Except the white one was played as well to get a massive alabaster potion.
I think that's an underplayed white card in the format. I'm thinking about splashing one in my current deck just for fun. We'll see.
It's an instant speed. Did you know that?
Instant speed, gain some life. Fuck it.
Yeah.
It can't be that bad.
So I try my best to try and remember this. Thanks to Jared Mazur and Dan Bittner for answering my texts. Back in the day.
If they want to come on and like you guys argue for like an hour about
hell no.
Like
no.
Okay.
No.
All right.
You don't want that. Nobody in our listening wants to see friends who have been friends since 14 bicker about memories.
Bicker about what cards were legal in 95. That's exactly what I want to hear about.
I'm just nip that in the bud now, Eric.
Hey, was anybody playing like combo? Like was anybody playing like Tax Edge or anything like that? Was that a thing? Did people figure that out?
Dude, the combos that we were playing, like by today's standards,
right? I'm sure they weren't playing like 4-4, like.
They were. So my friend Curtis, I thought was an innovator, like because he played with 20 lands and 4 strips, hence 24 lands. And then 4 Llanowar Elves, but he was playing Spirit Link If Biff or Freet, which I've stolen. And he was working people with it. He was like, "No, dude, I gained like net 3 on stuff, and like
I'm in a game life. You're gonna lose life. Like this is how this is gonna be.
This is how this works." And then Power Monolith combo was a big combo back then. It was, and it kind of always has been. Mirror Universe
Okay.
combo, like the Mirror Ball decks, those were a thing.
Yeah.
Underworld Dreams combo was not a combo because Underworld Dreams was restricted almost immediately that some tournament organizer opened it in a pack. They're like, oh, hell no. Like, no, no.
I'm just
Um,
looking sideways to see some of these things.
sorry.
The dark. What I'm trying to think.
Oh, the
People playing
dark
like
was a
ball
big
lightning
set.
and stuff out of the dark.
Yes. And in fact, if you look at one of these rule sets, I can't remember which one. Hold on, I wrote this, so I should remember. Summer of '95. By summer of '95, ball lightning was restricted in
Okay.
one of the sets because somebody had spiked a tournament with it. Somebody had done Berserk ball lightning, and like ran the table with it.
Yes.
So, like
Fantastic.
at that point, or done something like that because Berserk was probably restricted too. Yeah. So they had gotten that banned or restricted out of their winning deck. So that was played. Uncle Esteban was a played card. That card was played in almost every deck that played black. As a basically because Maze of Ith was restricted. Maze of Ith we loved. Maze of Ith was
Yeah,
like
it's a
we
good
saw
card.
this card.
Underplayed.
It was recognized as a business card at the very beginning. But it was restricted in almost every tournament I went to when it was legal. And it was looked at as like a way to gum up the board for the same reason that Singing Tree from Arabian Nights was a played card, is just a way to kind of like gum up the board, tap stuff. People loved that play, which is Icy Manipulator was like one of the first unlimited card I got. It was everybody picked that up as soon as they could, and it being at uncommon like facilitated that. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
So,
that last tournament.
yeah.
I'm trying to look. Ice
I just
Age
have
was was in there, right? Was Homelands?
no, I did not
Okay.
play at a tournament where Homelands was legal, but I did play at a tournament where Ice Age was legal, and Zuron Orb was recognized as a business spell
As
from
being
the very start.
okay, being like
Yeah.
just fucking good. Okay.
Yeah, dude, really good too. Cards we played from Ice Age that don't see play now. Shield of Ages was garbage, but we played it. And then mono green becomes really powered, right?
Okay.
You have at this point in time what I consider the first true ramp deck, Eric, where it's like 4 Llanowar Elves, 4 Fyndhorn Elves, 4 Fyndhorn Elders, and then you're just dropping Scaled Worms on people. And like,
Dude, I still have one copy of Scaled Worm. I
Yeah.
keep it just in case. Just in
Yeah.
case.
Yep. It was, what, it's tough to describe like what Magic was like at this time. There was no play mats, like we were not keeping track on dice. You were keeping track on a piece of paper and pen. We literally flipped coins when it said flip a coin. Like
Yeah.
that was a thing. They did cheat us at the beginning because we were kids, but they didn't at the end.
How did you transport your deck? Like, how did you
white
bring it with you?
boxes, long, like we would have like little and long white boxes like that because we were all into baseball cards
Like-
because that was huge.
Like these
in the 80s.
ones. Hold on.
Yeah, dude. And so I
Like
still
one of these. Yeah,
that's
okay.
exactly right. And so you would, and then you didn't use sleeves, so you can actually put like a revised starter slip
Inside
that
that,
in
yep.
there without it being too big of a hassle. For really special cards, you would have those hard jewel cases
Yeah.
that like hinge. Yeah.
Yes. I have some of those around here somewhere too. Yeah.
People were playing with penny sleeves, but they couldn't shuffle, so then they quit. So there was always one dude that was playing with penny sleeves, and you're like, God, it's gonna take him for fucking ever. And it did. Like you would have to fucking and we would riffle shuffle the shit out of these
Yep.
cards. Like everybody did that. There were sleeves by 95. This is when I feel like Ultra Pro and their monster cards or whatever started becoming a thing. And that was something we did. So
I don't think I played with sleeves until current days. I don't think I played with a single sleeve, and I played through like Nemesis.
I'll tell you this much. The sleeves were all clear to begin with. That's an interesting thing. Like they didn't have like a shaded back. They were clear. so that you could still see that it was a Magic card and not a
And not
fake.
like a CE or a Iron Ice card. Yeah.
Well, I didn't think about that, but yeah, I guess that's probably a concern.
I mean,
We considered those cards to be trash. Like,
fuck.
Like we were just like, no, that, I mean, you can't even play with that card. Why is that a card? Like, don't bring that, like, and younger kids would bring it to the table to start playing with it. We're like, no, absolutely not. Like, that's not even a real card. Because of the alpha cut, like that had been beaten into us. And so, and most people will, from back in the day, will tell you this, Eric, but beta was like a much preferable black bordered set than alpha for the longest time.
Yeah, I had heard that. Like everybody was like, "Oh, beta first," because it all fits together. So
That's
I
right.
also remember like people would cheat because you could tell the difference between the backs of cards were different enough that you could know if you're going to draw like an Ice Age card or a Homelands card over top of a 4th edition card or something like that. So,
well, yeah, maybe at the end of these tournaments that's probably a thing. At the beginning of these tournaments, I'll tell you, they didn't try that hard. They just had like a really worn demonic tutor, and they just shuffle that damn thing to the top and draw it, dude. Like,
oh, crazy! Yeah,
and it's like, and I would, to the point like where my friend, who had less of a filter than me, I was still trying to respect, the hierarchy here of the comic book geek. You don't question your elders type of thing, and he would just be like, dude, isn't that your demonic tutor? And they would just be like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, just raw dog and bulldog you as like a kid. Bad cheats too, like drawing 2 cards at a time and be like, I didn't draw 2. What are you talking about? And still not being able to win. So it was bizarre at the beginning. Pizza, there was a pizza break too, Eric.
I remember pizza breaks. Pizza breaks.
We're going to now stop because the tournament organizer has ordered a pizza. You may do whatever you want to do, but he is going to eat his pizza and not share it with you.
It's just like, okay, we're pausing. Just like lay the hand down. I did that at my first ever pre-release. I'd be like, yes. Pizza, dude. Like, put these cards down. Right. You're gonna win. It's fine. Like,
I know. I would play if I were to pick. I was saying to nobody when I was on alone. If I were to pick one of these sets to try like a one-off, it would be this fall of '94, summer of '95. Like, I think this is an interesting set. Restricted workshop. Instead of free Charizard, free mana drain. Let people play 4 mana drain. It's not going to kill you. I mean, you can certainly cast artifacts off of mana drain instead of workshops for a tournament. So
let's just do it. We'll figure it out. I'll talk to Cam. He'll be into this. I want to take Berserk off the restricted list, but it'll be fine.
And Ball Lightning.
And Ball Lightning.
Like,
if we want Cam to do it, we're gonna have to take those 2 off. But everything else looks fine.
I mean, Felden's Gain. Like,
who fucking cares?
Yeah, that would get a little bit crazy if we let people have that.
Dude, I'll talk to Cam. If not, like, we can do this.
We'll do it as some side event next time we get together.
Yeah,
but it was all, dude. This. So what is this meta like? All good stuff creature decks. Like, that's all it is.
100%.
That and Wrath of God. And who's the bad guy there? Like, it's not the creature deck, dude.
It's not the creature deck.
So, I remember playing like this guy who had 4 Jusums, and it was my first wrecking at the hand of Jusum.
And you're like, oh, this is a good card. Like, I know it does 1 deal damage, but it's good.
Yeah, but 5/5 for 4 is insane. That beats the War Mammoth in my deck, right? Like, it was, we did progressively get better at deck building, but we never moved. At no time before 1996 did we ever move off of our 20-20-20 build. Like, we might have had 20 lands plus Sol Ring and Dark Ritual,
right?
Plus Llanowar Elves, and we were doing well, and that's probably why we gravitated to green and black as colors, because of that. But we never thought, oh, let's go up to 22 lands. Like, that never occurred to us, Dude,
it's interesting. Like, when I build decks now, like, I use a hybrid geometric calculator to like figure out, is my mana curve right? Like, I use a website to figure it out because I'm not that smart. So,
I still do. I honestly still do what I did in the 90s, where I count the pips of the colors on the cards and I divide it by half. And if I have that many mana sources to cover it, I'm good.
Good to go. All right. Yeah, I think I don't know. I think like in old school you can get away with running like you don't have to be that tuned, right? You can be more or less and still be fine, right?
Yeah.
But
I do think that I played a match the other day against somebody who had jammed for I'm sorry, factories into his Agdra red green white build. And I feel like I had an advantage because I had just dropped the factories for more colored sources, allowing me to get out like bigger guys faster.
faster.
Yeah, so there's probably some truth to what we were talking about earlier about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, next episode, because we're like an hour and a half.
Half of it is just me rambling, panicked
It's
while
fine.
you're off the air. I'm like,
Dude.
oh God, what do I say? What do I say?
It's fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if anybody listens to this. It's irrelevant. Like,
Yeah, all right.
we're just doing it for fun. The
Well, it's kind of nice to have posterity, these banned and restricted lists, and it gave me an excuse to call some old friends and like try and figure out what that looked like back in the day. So I
so then
appreciate
then it was worth it. Like,
it.
and
Totally.
I'm gonna make these into pictures, and it'll be part of like the stuff that goes out into the internet. So
All right.
yeah,
People
because
can read it. Good luck.
people, yeah, dude, I can read it. You're fine. Like,
Okay.
I have pretty atrocious handwriting, and if they can't read it, I don't fucking care. I think it's readable. I think we could easily run one of these as a tournament. It's just like a one-off, fun-off. Like doesn't have to
Yeah,
be good.
totally. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to not have to deal with time vault. It'd be interesting to see if like somebody's got to be the bad guy. I'll be the bad guy. Somebody's got to be the heel because there was a Wrath of God deck
yes.
at the end, right? So yeah,
That's what Magic is really missing is heels, right? Like we will have that discussion on the next one.
Okay.
I promise you, because I love to talk about that idea. I could talk about that idea for a while. Anyhow.
Okay.
Next episode, I'll get you on. When Mark gets back from the Netherlands, we'll do another episode.
All right, man. Thanks for this.
Okay.
This is always
This is fantastic. I'm gonna post this stuff here probably tomorrow after I get back from a meeting.
All right, dude. Sounds good.
All right. Later, dude.
Take care, bro. Bye.